Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to act as your mentor, showing you exactly how to draw out genuine, deep critical reasoning in your students. If you've ever felt like your teaching or mentoring sessions are just you talking at someone rather than truly engaging their mind, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to unpack a timeless playbook for fostering independent thought. So let's dive right in with a pretty surprising contradiction about one of the founding fathers of Western philosophy. Socrates was actually put on trial because a lot of Athenians believed he was a dangerous enemy of the state. Seriously. He was accused of corrupting the youth and refusing to recognize their gods, which, is a pretty shocking resume for a guy we now consider a massive pillar of education. But to figure out how to use his methods today, we really have to understand what made him so incredibly threatening to the status quo of ancient Athens. And here's the thing, Socrates wasn't feared because he walked around claiming to have all the answers. No, it was because his subversive act of constant questioning was seen as a massive threat. Think about that for a second. The danger wasn't in dictating some new dogma. It was in handing people the tools to dismantle the existing dogma themselves. He absolutely loathed formal lectures. Instead of standing up on a podium talking down to people, he chose to engage friends and complete strangers in these lengthy, probing conversations about morality and society. And these weren't your standard structured debates where someone wins and someone loses, and he definitely wasn't there just to offer explicit advice. Section 1. The Dangerous Art of Questioning. The Subversive Power of Socrates. Section 2. The Midwife of Ideas. Defining the core mechanics of the method. Okay, so rather than just implanting your own ideas directly into a student's mind, this method requires you to do something radically different. You have to claim you know absolutely nothing. You respond to their answers only with further questions. Now, it sounds simple, right? But it's actually an incredibly rigorous process, because by only asking questions, you're actively probing their logic, revealing its underlying flaws, and ultimately helping both of you reach a far more robust understanding. The absolutely crucial point here is this brilliant analogy from Socrates himself. As a mentor, you are simply the midwife. You're helping birth robust understanding by eliminating contradictory logic. You aren't creating the idea for them. You are quite literally just facilitating the labor. You're drawing out an individual's unexamined assumptions and actively challenging those biases. It doesn't always give you a neat, definitive answer at the end, but it radically clarifies the questions. Section 3. The Method in Action. Deconstructing the Euthydemus Dialogue. To see how this actually plays out in real time, we can look at some fictional dialogues recorded by his inspired followers, Plato and Xenophon. It brilliantly illustrates the cognitive dissonance created when Socrates asked this very confident young man named Euthydemus to label actions like lying and theft as just or unjust. So, first, Euthydemus confidently states that lying and theft are definitely injustice. But then Socrates probes a bit further. He asks, well, what if a general deceives and pillages a hostile enemy army? Euthydemus quickly revises his rule. Okay, it's just when done to enemies, but unjust to friends. But of course, Socrates isn't finished. He counters again. What about a commander lying to his own troops to boost their morale? Is that unjust? By simply following that line of inquiry exactly where it logically leads, Euthydemus ends up completely despondent. He suddenly realizes his circular logic has left him totally unsure of what actually constitutes justice. And honestly, as a mentor, this is exactly the breakthrough moment you're looking for. Because once a student realizes their foundational logic is flawed, they are finally open to building a stronger, much more reasoned perspective. Section 4. A tool for any discipline. Universal applications from ancient Athens to the modern era. See, because this technique isn't limited by the specific content of the conversation, it's been utilized across centuries and in dramatically different fields. For example, during the Renaissance, a doctor would moderate discussions by questioning students' assumptions about clinical medical diagnoses, eventually arriving at conclusive results. Then, following the Protestant Reformation, the method was adapted to tackle really abstract questions of faith. Jump to the 19th century, and it becomes the absolute backbone of American legal education, challenging law students with all sorts of unforeseen hypothetical situations. And even today, the Supreme Court uses this very same approach to imagine the unintended impacts of passing laws. So whether we're talking about astronomy, botany, or modern judicial reasoning, questioning unexamined assumptions can be adapted to teach almost any topic that relies on critical reasoning. Section 5. Becoming a Socratic Educator. The rules of engagement for modern mentors. So we've seen the sheer power of this method, but its success depends entirely on the teacher actually using it. If you want to use this playbook, here are your rules of engagement. Step 1, you absolutely must be well-versed in your subject so you know exactly which questions to ask. Step 2, be modest and genuinely curious. And Step 3, affirm every single contribution. Look, instead of bullying your students or showing off your own superior intellect, which, let's be honest, shuts down learning instantly, you really have to act as a guide. You are there to explore right alongside them, validating their effort, even as you gently dismantle their faulty logic. Now, as a gentle historical warning, we should point out that Socrates himself wasn't exactly the poster child for subtlety. Historians believe he was deeply critical of Athens' particular brand of democracy, and he passed those concerns right on to his followers. Ultimately, these subversive beliefs were distorted in public forums, and they were actually thought to have inspired two of his pupils to treasonous ends. And it was for those ideas that he was brought to trial and sentenced to death. So, while this method is an incredible tool, remember that challenging foundational societal beliefs can definitely spark some intense pushback. Yet, even on his deathbed, artists depict this incredibly serene philosopher, ever curious to explore the ultimate question. So, channeling that serene teacher, we want to leave you with this thought, turning the Socratic method inward on your own teaching practice. What unexamined assumptions are you holding on to today? Are you lecturing when you should really be asking? Are you handing out answers when you should be drawing them out? Take this playbook, step into the role of the midwife of ideas,